I'm Gwen Preston of Resource Maven, and I'm here with Mining Clips to have a chat with Daryl Pezlowski, who's Premier of the Yukon. Thanks for taking the time to chat with us today. Just to start, the Yukon has great geologic potential, so do you want to just give a little overview of what the territory has to offer in that sense?
Sure. Hi, Gwen. You know, Yukon has a full suite of high-grade minerals. We've got gold, silver, lead, zinc, copper, nickel, iron, molybdenum, tungsten, platinum group metals, selenium, just to name a few. So, you know, we went through another real gold rush. We had a gold rush back in the late 19th century. In 2010, 2011, we had another gold rush where 2011 we had over 114,000 claims staked. As a result of that, we found a lot more mineralization and really advanced some of the projects that were there as well. And just to give you maybe a bit of an example, Yukon has the only Carlin-style gold deposit in Canada. And the Tentina, well, I guess I'd go back on the Carlin, that's ATAC Resources and their Rackla project. And through the Tentina Trench that goes through Yukon and Alaska, there's a number of gold projects, mines and projects that are out there right now, such as Donlin Creek, Fort Knox, Pogo, Casino, Victoria Gold. But you know, the Yukon part of the Tentina Trench really is still really underexplored, so there's still a lot of potential there. And of course, also there's a large basin called the Selwyn Basin, which has probably one of the world's largest undeveloped lead-zinc deposits.
Absolutely, yeah, a lot of potential, and I agree with the underexploration. Now, you mentioned the Yukon Gold Rush that we went through recently. Hundreds of millions of dollars went up into the ground in the Yukon. Where does that stand now? What came out of that Yukon Gold Rush?
Well, you know, through that gold rush, we identified another, I believe, about 7.3 million ounces of gold. So right now we're looking at about 23 million ounces of gold, about 50 million ounces of silver, 10 million ounces of platinum group metals, and that's just the companies that are here with us at Cambridge House. I mentioned Selwyn deposit and the large lead zinc deposit there is. North American Tungsten has their Cantung mine and their Mactung project, and collectively they have approximately 15% of the world's tungsten reserves as well. So there's a lot that's come as a result of what's happened, and it certainly is an exciting place and a great place for investors.
All right, so in terms of it being a great place for investors, there's been First Nations, the relations between First Nations, mining companies and governments is playing an increasing role across the country. Can you give us a feel for what that's like in the Yukon? How are the relations between First Nations, government and mineral explorers and developers?
Well, you know, we're really at the vanguard of land claims in Canada. There's 14 First Nations in Yukon. 11 of them have land claim agreements. That's almost half of the entire country. So when you're leading the country, you know, there will be times where there is different interpretations of what these agreements mean. Because of that, to create certainty, sometimes we need to look at the courts to provide that direction. Having said that, these land claims have meant a lot of certainty for investors and for companies because the rules are laid out as a result of the land claim. So that's very important. And you know, the mining industry has always been the largest employer of First Nation people in Yukon. And the development corporations that the First Nations have are very excited and willing to work with industry, with investors to be engaged in that industry throughout the Yukon.
Yeah, that's fantastic. The settled land claim certainly stands out when you look at Yukon versus the rest of the country, for sure. One issue that often gets raised when talking about resource development or development in the Yukon is the issue of power. So there's not a lot of power up there. So what are you, electricity I mean, I don't mean political power, electricity. So what is Yukon doing to address that situation?
Well, you know, we are a bit unique from the other two territories in that of all the electricity consumed in the Yukon right now, over 95% of it is hydro based, which is fantastic. But you're right, we're getting to that point where we need more energy. What we're doing right now is we're converting our diesel backup generators to LNG, which are cleaner burning and less expensive. And as a result of that, creating that infrastructure around that. Now there's a couple projects right now in Yukon, the Wellgreen Platinum Project and the Western Copper and Gold Project, that are both looking at LNG for their projects. So, you know, by us moving forward, we're also sort of creating that primary supply chain that might benefit them as well. On top of the LNG, though, we're doing some infrastructure enhancements as well. We're upgrading the line between Stewart Crossing and Keno, where we have Alexco's Bella Keno project, Victoria Gold's in that area, and there's a number of other projects in that area as well. We're working with Alaska and looking at a transmission intertie between the Southeast Alaska and Yukon. And of course, our biggest emphasis is we're moving ahead with the planning for creating a new hydro dam, which we believe will create that prosperity for Yukoners, both economically but also socially and culturally for decades to come. And if we can produce renewable, reliable, price predictable power, I do believe that also will allow some projects that maybe have been borderline before to then be able to go ahead as a result of a lower energy costs.
That makes sense to me for sure. Now, speaking of costs, rising capital costs, so the cost to build a mine, that has certainly been a problem across the sector in recent years. So the question I have for you is it possible to build a reasonably priced mine in Yukon, given that the infrastructure is a little bit more difficult to come by in the area, certainly remote? And if you can build a reasonably priced mine, do you have some examples?
Yeah, it's a good question, and the answer to that question is yes. I believe is that as we've seen a reduction in commodity prices, we're also seeing a sharpening of the pencil when it comes to the contractors, when it comes to labor, when it comes to capital equipment as well. But a good example would be Alexco's Bella Keno project. About 4 years ago, they took into production for under $60 million and built it on time and on budget. And another good example, I think, would be Western Copper and Gold's Casino project. If you look at the scope of that project and compare it to similar projects around the world, the costing of that project actually comes in as sort of in the low to the mid-range. So I think the short answer to your question is yes. I believe that you can still build a mine in Yukon and have it be viable and to the benefit of Yukoners, to the benefit of the mining company, of course, to the benefit of the investors.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the Casino project is a very, very large project, so it's going to have a big capital cost, but you're right, relative to the rest of the world is what matters, right? Mining is a global business. All right, so then looking forward, what are you excited about in the near term, in the long term, the future of sort of resource development in your territory?
Well, we've done a lot of work already, and with the exploration that has occurred, what we know is that we're still very underexplored. And we have a government in place that has created that geopolitical stable environment with strong policy to support the industry. And in fact, we are out there providing funding as well through our Yukon Mine Exploration Program to help out basic prospecting as well. And through this last gold rush, what it has created is a strong service industry for the exploration industry as well. So I think that's very important. And one of the good news is that the companies in Yukon have money in their pockets, and they're excited about getting out this year and getting into the ground and looking for sizing up their results. So I think that the fact that you put all that together, and the fact that we've got some great infrastructure already. We have over 5,000 kilometers of roads. We have a transmission grid and hydropower as well, with access to 3 deep sea ice-free ports, and we're working on our permitting and regulatory processes to continue to make them as efficient. And we've also invested in creating what we call the Center for Northern Innovation in Mining, which is to prepare Yukoners for those skilled jobs to be ready when this downturn turns around.
Perfect. Well, it's exciting times for the mining sector in general and for Yukon going forward. So thanks very much for doing this.
Thanks, Gwen.